Hey, what's good, man? How you doing, Kwame? Welcome to According to Hip Hop, man.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
All day, man. We got a legend in the building. How's everything going on your end, man? How's everybody dealing with the quarantine? How's the fam?
Everything is good, man. You know, we're out here like The Walking Dead. I don't know if anybody watches that show, but you know, like on the show, they got to suit up, they got to get ready, and they got to go out and try to get rations. So that's pretty much what it's like on this end, man. It's like out here just trying to get that toilet paper, those paper towels. That's like gold right now.
Right. You know what? I felt the same way because I watched The Walking Dead, too. We out here in Atlanta, and they shoot The Walking
Yeah,
Dead out here. So it's
exactly.
so like when you're going out and everybody got the surgical mask on, people are staying away from people, everybody got gloves on, everybody
Yeah,
is
man.
just so distant. It's surreal. You know,
Yeah,
and the
man.
streets are clear too.
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, it's there's so many ways to look at it. You know, a
Hmm.
lot of people, I understand that a lot of people are very anxious. They have a lot of anxiety. Um, and I say this before, you know, we as humans, we have, you know, just as Americans, we have been trained since we were 5 years old to get up, go to school,
Hmm.
come home, and then from there, get up, go to work, come home. So a lot of people have that trained mentality and that movement in them. So when things are on lockdown and things are taken away, people are starting to get anxious, and there's a whole lot of anxiety because they're out of that their comfort zone or their trained zones. So it's a matter of a lot of people just trying to really realize the space that they're in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean it's a huge adaptation for people, and like you said, we've been trained all our lives to either get up, go to school, either get up,
Yep.
go to work, or either get up in gatherings when you are on a break. So just sitting
Yep.
around, like you said, it got people going stir crazy. What's your
Yeah.
prediction as far as like how long you think this will take?
October, November,
Oh
personally, I
wow.
think. Yeah, because you know you gotta. It's not. See, I think the black community. Let's talk about the black community for a second.
Hmm.
You know, we deal with a lot of propaganda. We've been dealing with a lot of propaganda, especially on Facebook or Instagram, where at first when it was happening, it was an Asian thing, and then the propaganda was black people are immune to the coronavirus. It's not in Africa. It's not, you know, and come to find out, if you look at all the stats, it's most of the black communities that have the highest level of the virus. And it's so coincidental. I'm from Queens, New York, and the area of Queens in New York that I grew up in is Corona, Queens. And that is
Yep.
the highest neighborhood of the coronavirus in all of New York City. And New York City is like ground zero. And Corona, it's heavily black, it's heavily Hispanic, some Asian neighborhood, but neighborhoods like that, you know, we deal with our home remedies and all the wives' tales that we've grown up with, and I think a lot of us aren't taking it serious. You got places like Washington D.C. This past weekend, there was a big crab fest, and everybody was out getting
Mm.
crabs and stuff, and not paying attention to what's going on and how this is affected. So I say that, and then you know you got people talking the 5G conspiracy, and you know
Right.
people in our community. We're not the first people to want to just take random tests for anything,
Right.
and you know, just based on the history of this government. So
Right.
there's a lot
Tuskegee,
of,
all that.
yeah, so you know, going back from that, there's a lot of things that the black community is concerned with, and some of those concerns are hampering the curve, the flattening of the curve.
Right.
So
Right.
so I'm saying back to what I was saying. The reason why I'm saying October, November is because it's never going to be a day where the virus is turned off.
Right.
Even if the curve is flattened by July, August, everybody's going to have spring break mentality, and try to reclaim their spring and reclaim their summer, and they're going to go out, and someone who's on that 2-week curve is going to reinfect or infect people, and then we're going to have to dial it back again. You may not have to start it over, but we're going to have to dial it back. And so I say, I think the summer is shot. We're going to do things for the summer, but things are going to, and that's how it is, an ebb and flow. You know, it's like that in China. You know, they said things were slowing down in China, but then it picked back up a little bit. So it's like, we're going to experience that too. 2020 is going to be the coronavirus year.
Now, as far as a musician, a performer, producer, someone involved in the music industry, how do you think that's going to affect live music? I mean, obviously in the next couple of months, it's going to affect it immensely, but how do you think that's going to affect it in the future? You think people are going to be ready to come back together and gather, or people are going to be more apprehensive?
Well, you gave me a two-parter. So for me, for the entertainment community, somebody like myself, yes, I'm a producer by trade, and I spend most of my time in the studio, and I'm in a sequestered, quarantined atmosphere for the most part anyway. But also another part of my business is I travel. Every weekend I'm doing shows. If I'm not doing Kwame shows, I produce and manage Vivian Green, and I perform with her as well. So every weekend we are performing. And so when you have a shutdown like this, for us, March, so think about it, 4 shows a week, for a month, 12 shows a month. So March is shut down. April shut down. We don't know what May is looking like. All our May shows have been postponed. June shows are still intact, but we don't know where that's going to be. So that's a hit. If that's your main income and you expecting these 4 payments a week, 12 payments a month, and your bills are being paid that way, that's a major hit to an entertainer. You know, a lot
especially
of
in the streaming age,
here, you know, they'll be out here like, oh, you know, we got money, we get money, man. Don't let anybody fool you. The entertainment industry is cracked right now. You understand? Because we rely on social gathering. Period. You know, we can do all the IG DJ parties and live shows we want in the house. That's to keep our that we're just trying to stay sharp. We do what we do. We entertain. We try to give the people what they would have spent money on anyway if we weren't quarantined. But I think the entertainment industry is the one industry that's probably hit the hardest, you know, because you have like, you know, educational industry, you know, a lot of teachers get paid leave. They're, you know, they're gone they're indefinitely out of going to school, but you have online classes, you have whatever, and there's a paid leave there. The restaurant, the small business hit, that's going to be a mega hit. Imagine if you were a restaurant that opened up a month ago. Man. When this thing is over, you're done.
Yeah.
You're done. You're absolutely done. You know, same thing just now. Like, you know, even back to Vivian, we literally, the day things started getting shut down, we literally dropped a single, and it's a club record. It's called Light Up. It's a club record, and we were starting a club promotional tour. Our first stop was Vegas. We were in Vegas. We got to Vegas. We did a radio interview, and then the president announced the shutdown, and the club date canceled. And then every day, boom, 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 boom. After that, so in 24 hours, we saw a month, 2 months of work disappear. You know, that's a hit. That's a big hit. Yeah.
I mean, thankfully, like you said, I think people are able to kind of keep their name out there, and I think that it will come back. But yeah, for the moment, it's a hit.
Oh yeah, and then when it opens back up, when the doors open up, and that's when I'm really, because we don't know how far this is going to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like for example, where I live, I'm in California. I have to get up 6:30 in the morning. I have to stand on a line at the grocery store looking like a ninja, and I'm standing on the line, and it's like, okay, 50. The rule is 50 households can go in at a time. Senior
Wow.
citizens go in for the first half hour, and then 50 households. So what counts as 50 households is 50 people with a shopping cart. If you're with a shopping
Right.
cart, you count as a household. So now, what if you're a family of 4? So they'll go out and they'll get 4 shopping carts. So that family of 4 now is taking 4 times the quote unquote rations
Mm-hmm.
that you could have had for somebody else. And so by the time I get in there, you know, I'll be early in line, but I get there's maybe 1 roll of toilet paper left, no rolls of toilet paper left. I got to be on a 2-hour hunt driving throughout my area just to find stuff, you know, so it's a very, very interesting time.
It is an interesting time. It's surreal. And, you know, it's interesting to see what we will become after this is over. Like you said, just the, you know, because we're going to be in this habit of operating
Yeah,
like this, you know?
yeah.
All right. Well,
But
shout out to
I think that's dope.
what's that?
I think it's dope that the people are able to see that we're all in this together. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? You're home. I'm home. Anybody who's doing interviews, we're home. We're all communing, and we're all communing in a way that is very personal. And I think that a lot of people may have started brand new careers just off of these new platforms of communication. Like, for example, I did the brunch the other week, and now people call me a DJ. I'm like, okay, I'm not a DJ, but I'll do your party. Like, you know what I'm saying? If I can sit up there for 6 hours and spin records, and you know, and I have an understanding of the music, I may have started a new chapter for myself.
Right.
You know, unknowingly.
Something
You know what
that
I'm
you
saying?
probably didn't have time to do before. I mean, because obviously you know your music. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, you've been in this thing since, what, 16? Probably
yeah.
before then. I
16,
mean,
yeah.
that's amazing, man. You produced the your whole first album, right? Wrote,
All my
produced.
music I produced. Yep.
And, you know, with that being said, because it makes me think about Prince and what he did in his first album and whatnot, and
Yeah.
well, everything after. But you know, just coming in the door. I mean, how do you think Kwame will operate in like the SoundCloud era of hip hop? Like, if you were
Well,
16
if I was
and
16 now, I'd
right,
probably, knowing me, you know, me at 16, I would probably have like 100 albums out a year, like for real. Um, you know, that's the truth, because when I was a kid, my influence, even though I was doing rap, my influences were Stevie Wonder and Prince. Those are one and one. Those are my 2 top influences. So I'm looking at the back of album covers and I'm reading liner notes, and I'm studying. That's the thing. I study the music. So I'm looking at it and it says produced, written, composed, and arranged by Prince. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I guess that's what you have to do in order to really do it. So it was never like it wasn't really a conscious decision to do all of that. I just thought, I know how to do it, and I know what I want, and this is what I have to do. You know, where I knew other rappers that just rapped, or other singers that just sang, and they relied on a producer, which was cool. And I wanted to do that for them as well. So I always came in the door saying, okay, I can do it for me, and I can do it for you as well. I can provide a service.
I was just having a conversation with one of our writers, Ahmad Cooper, and he's a huge Prince fan, as am I. But we were talking about the Sign of the Times might be, well, in our opinion, Prince's most rounded album. Like, what do you think what's your favorite Prince album?
Well, to me, I have them all. I know them
Mm-hmm.
all.
So it's
The
difficult.
ones that I know about. But to me, his golden period starts at 1999, Purple Rain. It caps at Sign of the Time, and it rounds out at Parade. Like, to me, Sign of the Times is probably, I don't know, it's a battle. Every week is a battle between Parade and Sign of the Times. Because Parade, if you really listen to Parade, it's the last collaboration with the Revolution. And it seems like they just went in. They just went in for one more time. You know what I'm saying? It seems like when he was writing this music for Under the Cherry Moon, it seems like a nonstop session from Sign of the Times, Around the World in a Day, Parade.
Right.
Those albums were just all like, he just built Paisley Park. He had his own space. He had his own creative area. And when you have your own creative surroundings, you just spaz out.
And that's what we were talking about too. The fact that, you know, the revolution was gone now, and this was before the New Power generation, and Sign of the Times was just him. Yeah. And this is what his output was. And you had stuff from, you know, you got the look all the way to, yeah, I mean, it just was everywhere. Adore.
Yeah, no. Yeah, Sign of the Times.
It's so much.
Sign of the Times is such, like, that album personally means so much to me, because when that album dropped, I was coming into my own as what I wanted to do. And, you know, that album dropped, I was probably 14, 15 at the time. So I was like, you know, that was leading up to that album. You know, like I said, I was still rocking with Love Sexy album, Parade album. You know, those albums, Around the World in a Day, those albums meant so much. But then Sign of the Time hits, and I'm like, this shit is just amazing. And then to see it live, that's another thing. Because if I'm not mistaken, Love Sexy is after Sign of the Times. So when he did his tour at the time, it was the Love Sexy tour. I don't think it was necessarily too much of a Sign of the Times tour in America like that. But like I said, I was a kid, so I really, really didn't know what the touring was like. But I did see the Love Sexy tour, and it's hands down to this day. I've seen him a billion times, but to this day, it's probably the best show I've ever seen in my life. Literally the greatest show I've ever seen. And seeing that put the nail in the coffin, like, all right, this is it. I'm all the way done, man. I'm like, somebody was like, I forgot Diamonds and Pearls. No, that album is incredible too. That's you know, New Power generation.
That's a little later, yeah.
Now. Like Emancipation, Diamonds and Pearls. That's when he was on his new wave, and that shit was extra dope too. Like,
yeah.
Oh, we could get into this Prince shit.
Right. But yeah, like you said, I mean, with that live performance, man, you can't duplicate that live performance experience. I do believe that once all this is over, people will start congregating again. And it's going to be huge for the music industry because, that's something you can never duplicate. You cannot download a live performance. I mean, you technically can, but you can't get the same feeling that you got for being there. That's something that's going to stick with you forever. Yeah,
and I think that these tech companies and these record labels are running around in circles right now trying to create either a update for Instagram for this, what we're doing in the live performance, and another app for this live, you know, this virtual conversation, these virtual performances. Because the thing that people like about a lot of these performances is how raw they are. You know,
right.
You know, for example, the Babyface Teddy Riley battle that was supposed to be tonight that got postponed. I was reading some of the comments, and they were like, "Don't fix it to the point where it's way too polished."
Mm-hmm. I think that's what it looks like they're gonna do.
Yeah, you know, we want to see Babyface sitting up in his bedroom playing his computer while Teddy Riley is in his car playing his computer. Like, nobody want to see that extra saucy, man. We want to see it raw. So, you know.
Right. they're trying to make this a big production, and that, like you said, that's going to be a drawback. People want to
Yeah,
see
man.
the raw. Go with what's
Yeah,
been
man.
working. We just
It's
want
like
to
a
hear the
street
music.
fight. It's like a street fight, man. Let's do it, man. Like, you know, I was even thinking the same thing. It was like, I want to do another old school brunch. And I was like, oh man, I'm gonna get a new platform and I'm gonna hook it up and it's gonna sound. I'm like, nah. And I was thinking about, nah, man, do it the way you do it. Try to get these people to join in, and let's just have fun.
Yeah, yeah. It's about the content. You know what I mean? It's not really about all the stuff around the content. It's about the music, and then this back and forth. I mean, to me, I mean, you know, Teddy Riley has a great resume, but I mean, well, Babyface has been a part of so many records.
It should be Babyface versus Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. LA and
I
Faith.
totally agree.
It's trying to put. It's like Floyd Mayweather is great. Muhammad Ali is great, but you wouldn't make them both fight each other.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
It's it's a division.
People got to understand something. We understand Teddy Riley for New Jack Swing, the records that he did in New Jack Swing that capped off with Michael Jackson.
Remember the time, yeah.
Where Babyface goes back to 1982 to Ariana Grande records now. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, man, to even ask Babyface to give you 20 records is just not. It's
cutting him off at the ankles.
You know what I'm saying? It's like it's not gonna make sense, even though Teddy has the hipper records. He has the hip hop records. He has the club joints. He has those type of bangers. So, you know, so what are we going to do? You know, Heavy D versus Karen White, you know, when you start playing these records.
Right.
I don't know. I just got to see how that matches up.
Because there's only so many Bobby Brown records that Babyface is going to be able to play, too. Because those are more of the hipper records that Babyface has, like On Our Own, the Ghostbusters joint.
Well, you got to think
Cruel.
about it. You got to think about it. Teddy's going to drop My Prerogative, but Babyface can just drop the whole rest of the album. Let's be real about it. You know what I'm saying? The album that sold the most. He can just drop the rest of the album, not just, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, he could drop a whole Waiting to Exhale soundtrack that sold 20 million records. So
Brandy sitting in my room. You know what I mean?
You know, come on,
it's
man.
It's a lot. Now, you know what? I would like to see Teddy Riley go against Dallas Austin. I would like to see that.
That'd be dope.
That would be cool.
That'd be.
I think that's very comparable.
Yes. Or even, you know, somebody was like Teddy versus Pharrell, but it's kind of hard because, you know, that's teacher and student. You know, Teddy and Timbaland, teacher and student. So you can't. You know, that's going to be the hard thing. That's like a kung fu movie or whatever. But
this is my thing with the Pharrell thing, and I love Pharrell, but I mean, we can't act like Chad wasn't there. You know what I mean?
You just got to say Neptune's verse.
Yeah, we got
yeah.
Or we could just do whatever he made without Chad, but still, that's.
But we don't know. We don't know. That is because Chad has always been around. So you know, you know, just one. I think one is more of a front person than the other, but I think, you know, they've never separated, you know. So
but yeah, man,
I don't know. You know, the battle thing is cool.
I enjoyed watching the Manny and Scott Storch one. I enjoyed watching that. That was fun. Yeah. I missed the Lil Jon and T-Pain one, but I heard that was entertaining too.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I didn't see Manny and Scott, and I didn't see what do you call it, Lil Jon either. But my question is, does it count if you were co-producer versus a sole producer? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're the only producer, then you're going up against somebody that co-produced, unless it was something where you're basically saying, well, all right, I actually produced the record, but, you know, because of whatever, they had to give you co-production. You know, it can go into so many.
Right. It's still, that goes into semantics, and like you said, I mean, we put that on the court in the hip hop after the battle, after the Manny and Scott Storch battle, because pretty much Manny had no co-producers anywhere, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And we were like, is it fair that, you know, Scott Storch was playing records that he did with Dre, did with Timbaland, and a lot of people feel like that wasn't fair that he, you know, ran with some of those, because he played Cry Me a River, he played Still DRE, you know, Candy Shop, stuff like that or whatever, and it's like, yeah, but, you know, Manny clearly made all his stuff himself. So it's a little different. But yeah, so you being so young at 16, like, how did you, you know, get that opportunity? Were you still in school too, like juggling both?
Well, I think everybody gets the opportunity based on who they know and how well they know them. So for me, in my neighborhood was extremely rich in talent. It has a very rich Black talent history. But when I was a kid, my neighbors, like literally a stone's throw away, my neighbors were Herbie Lovebug, Kid and Play, Salt is Herbie's girlfriend, so Salt and Pepper's around.
Wow.
Eric B and Rakim, Cool G Rap. You know, there's a lot of, in the neighborhoods, East Elmhurst, Queens, East Elmhurst, Corona, Queens. And, you know, that's where I grew up. So all these people are around. You know, he's the DJ to my 8th grade prom. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Eric B was the ice cream man. You know, that's how we had a close knit neighborhood. So it almost turned into, when one got on, people just started getting on. So Herbie was the first person to get on. And, you know, Herbie was in a rap group with Play. Kid was in another rap group. They used to battle each other. You know, they were all friends. So Herbie, Kid and Play had a record. They were called Fresh Force at the time. They had a record. Salt and Pepper had a record. They were called Super Nature at the time. And they were just underground records. And then it turned into something bigger and bigger and bigger. So for me, they were much older than me. And Herbie's little brother, Steve, was a very good friend of mine. And so I would always just hang out over there and watch the process. And, you know, on my own, my parents got divorced around that time. I moved to Inglewood, New Jersey. And then Inglewood, New Jersey, there were rappers like that became friends of mine, like the Redhead Kingpin and a lot of Teddy Riley production stuff was happening with this guy named Big Bub from a group named Today. So these are people that I was surrounded. So now I'm surrounded.
It was all around.
Also, Sugar Hill Records was in the neighborhood as well. So I'm in I'm going back and forth between two neighborhoods that were heavily influenced with music. So for me, I'm making demos. I'm passing these demos around. I'm doing any kind of talent show I possibly can. Any talent show. It could be a cookout. If there's a microphone at the cookout, I'm straight up going in there and I'm rhyming, you know, or people that went to school with me. I went to this school called St. Gabriel's in East Elmhurst. People knew me as the kid that would go around the school with a drum set and play beats for classes. They would put me in different classes, and I would just rock out and just play all the hip hop beats at the time. In the 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. So you know, I was just known for that. Anything that that embodied the music, the hip hop, I was known, like to the point where the teachers would be like, "Look, we're going to such and such. There's going to be music there. Kwame, don't start no rapping, man. We're just there, blah blah blah." So you know, that was just my thing. And being in that whole environment, me making demos, finally got a demo to Herbie. And the first demo he didn't like. Second demo, he didn't tell me, but he ended up getting a deal. We ended up getting, and it was weird because, like I said, I was in Inglewood, New Jersey at the time. I went to a high school called Dwight Morrow. And I remember all at once. It was weird. All at once, Herbie got 3 record deals. He got Atlantic, Epic, and I can't remember the third. Then my father knew a friend that worked at Columbia Records, and my father gave the demo to the friend at Columbia Records. That got an interest as well. And then Redhead Kingpin had a deal with, before he got his deal with Teddy Riley, he ended up having a deal with Sugar Hill Records, but Sugar Hill changed their name. So it didn't have like an old school connotation to it. So then he brought my demo to Sugar Hill, and then Sugar Hill Records gave me a deal. So I'm literally walking, and I didn't tell my parents nothing. So I'm literally with a book bag with 4 or 5 record deals in my book bag every day.
Wow.
Nervous as hell, not knowing who to tell. And the only reason what it made me, I thought the history of Sugar Hill was so dope to me, but their contract was literally 1 page long. Like, it was just like this 1-page contract. And Atlantic Records contract, for example, was like a 300-page book. And I'm like, for some reason, the 1 page just did not sit right within my mind. I'm like, what are you going to explain how my whole life is going to turn out in 1 page? Where I got this 300-page portfolio from the labels, and it wasn't about money, because the money was whack. Like, it wasn't even no dope money involved, but whack compared to now. Nowadays, what I'm saying, what's whack to a 16-year-old. And I ended up wanting to go with Atlantic. I ended up finally telling my parents about it. My father got a divorce attorney to look over my contract, which was a whole another thing. and I ended up going with Atlantic, signing with Atlantic in '88, and then dropping the album in '89.
Man, you got a crash course in contracts like early. You have 4 contracts in your book bag.
Yo, I'm reading all of them, not understanding anything. Thinking to myself, maybe I should become an entertainment lawyer if this don't work out, because I'm sitting there and I'm reading this stuff and I'm like, what the hell does all this mean? But it was cool, man.
How have you seen? Because you remember what was on there, I'm sure. Like, how have you seen like record contracts just change over the years? Because I know you deal with Vivian Green. That's your artist.
Well, record contracts now, just as a producer, I see all types of deals and stuff. Like, like I've done, it's so funny. Like, I've done just singles, records that I may have gotten paid for just to do somebody's record was more than what I got for a whole album in 1989. So,
wow.
The times have changed, but the story is still the same. The story is always going to be record label approaches artist, purchases that artist's intellectual property, then gives them a loan and expects that loan to be paid back before any royalties or residuals are made. 99.9% of the time, the loan is not necessarily just a loan to you. It's a loan for the whole project. We bought the project off of you, and now we're going to charge you to use what we bought from you. And so you may say, you may read it all the time, oh, so-and-so got a $3 million deal. No, they did not get $3 million. It's $3 million to launch whatever the project is. They may have gotten $200,000 in their pocket, but the rest goes to radio and video and on the road promotions, tour promotions, and you got to pay that back. So then a year later, when all the receipts come in, record label says, you didn't make that money back yet, but you sold platinum or you sold gold, but yet we put $5-10 million into your pocket, so a platinum record probably just broke even at $10 million. So you know, we gotta, you know, we move on to the next album, and so you have these artists always, you know, crying broke or saying that they had a bad deal. They're all the same. All these deals are always the same. It doesn't matter if it's 1958 or 2028.
What do
90% of these deals will approach you the same way. And every deal that an artist gets, every deal an artist gets is negotiable. So, you know, some people get better deals than others, but I've yet to meet an artist that jumped up and down and said, I got the best record deal I've ever had. This is the greatest. It's always great in the beginning when you get that initial loan. And that's what it is. And then there's a flip side to it, because this industry there's a machine that runs this industry, and it's processes that go. And so a lot of people think that they could just jump on SoundCloud and they can jump on these distributing sites and, well, I'm not going to get a deal. I'm gonna just do it myself because they're not gonna fuck me. I'm just going to blah blah blah. But you are fighting against. You're a man with a rock fighting against a tank. You understand? So yeah, you may collect your pennies when you do the independent thing, and I'm all for it. You know, because the more you gain as an independent artist, the better leverage you have when it's time to move into the majors. But, you know, this system is built and designed for a reason. And, you know, and it's the artist, the more knowledge an artist has, an understanding of what they are entering, will depict what their future outcome is. You know, my advice to any new artist ever, whatever the deal is, no deal is the great deal. I don't care what you say, as long as they are able to put your music where you need that music to go, that's the deal you go with. You know, so you do your research. And my biggest advice is always, don't spend a dime. Don't spend a dime. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, because the bigger you get, people give you stuff for free. So why are you gonna, you know, you got these guys got one record out, but yet they pushing Bentleys and Ferraris and stuff like that. And back in the day, rappers, you know, the most we could probably get is a used Benz when I was a kid. But, you know, when I see that, I'm like, yo, man, this kid is about to set themselves up for the biggest fall if they just got one record, you know. And but I think to answer, because I'm long-winded, but to answer,
cool. It's good stuff.
To answer your question as well, the difference between now and then, there is so many outlets out here to allow you to have different streams of income that were not available to an older artist back in the days. We had to just rely on getting a record deal. Now you could, if you have the money, and that's another thing. If you have the money, you can set up your own independent situation. And a lot of people, like I saw some of the comments, what about Tech Nine? What about Master P? There is money that has to be put into these independent situations, and nobody realizes that. Nothing comes for free. You don't get on the radio for free. You don't get on TV for free. You don't get on, and I'm not saying you got to pay to be on it. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is things cost money. Record distribution costs money. These streaming platforms, these playlists, things, you have to be able to sustain these situations in order to, live in this space. So when you see these independent people come in, they're coming in with an investment. They're coming in with a certain set amount of money, and they make that money grow on the independent space. Nobody just, comes up with a record and makes $10 million the next day just because the record is dope.
Right.
You
When you hear this concept of, people selling out of the trunk, or even when people look at Chance the Rapper's situation, which, it appears if you look at it a little bit closer, there's a lot of missing elements in his situation, but they just hear that he's an independent artist not
Yeah.
signed anybody, and he's doing whatever.
You know, Chance the Rapper, Master P, Macklemore, all these independent people. Who was the investor?
Exactly.
There has to be a, a, a beginning to it. You don't just show up. You know what I'm saying? Like,
We don't hear that part.
No, yeah. You don't just, nobody just shows up. Somebody invests, and then when one person invests, the next person invests. And if they see that this is an investment that is making money, more people invest. And it you know, and you understand this is a business of smoke and mirrors. They fake it till they make it. So we see a lot of things thinking that it's one thing and it's not yet. And that's cool. That's what any kind of business. You don't want to show up looking broke. You know what I'm saying? So you show up the best way you possibly can. You know, you could go from rappers, you can go to even somebody like Spike Lee. Spike Lee had his parents and took credit cards and took loans out and blah 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 just to make a movie. He didn't just come into the game talking about I got a movie. Movies ain't free. Records aren't free. Even if it's a minimal investment. Say for example, a rapper that recorded a good project it's an independent project. Where did he record it at? Did he pay for studio time? Or did somebody invest money into him getting like a little Logic setup or a Pro Tools setup and a microphone and speakers and a drum machine? Somebody invested something.
Now, I remember what the labels used to do even when the artists would pay for their own studio time on an independent level, and then they go sign them, they make them re-record it or make them record it in their studio and use their budgets towards that for stuff that was already recorded, and saying that basically their recording wasn't good enough. Well,
the reason why you do that is because when you re-record under the record label's contract, whatever you record now is property of the label.
Mm-hmm.
So now you are creating masters that the label owns. And nowadays, when I was a kid, I recorded, and we had to record to these 2-inch tapes.
Mm-hmm.
And once the recording process was over, we had to hand the tapes in. You know what I'm saying? We had to deliver the masters, or somebody would come to the studio and collect the masters. If you were smart enough, you had time to copy. But a tape, each tape was $165. So, ain't nobody really had money to buy these 2-inch, 25-pound tapes for copying and this, that, and the third. And unfortunately, with a lot of hip hop, if it was a major label, they really didn't care. They didn't ask for the masters, and the tapes got lost, was in studios and, floating around, and they degenerate over time. So if you're not storing them properly, greatness is just being turned into dust. But now we live in a digital age, and there's no way a label can say, give me your master. The only way a label can say, give me the master is if the head of the label goes to the studio with the artist with his own hard drive. All the records get recorded, put on the hard drive, and then he takes the hard drive home. Ain't nobody doing that.
Mm-hmm.
There's copies of masters get sent via WeTransfer and Dropbox every day. There's no way to regulate that. But what the labels do now is once you finish the recording and you mix it and you have the record, they encode it. And that's why when if you play a record long enough on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, it'll shut you down due to copyright infringement, because these records are coded. So it's kind of hard to skip out on the master recordings because they have these codes to them. So it's like there's so many ways that.
And see, a lot of people don't even know that, and they don't understand, like, wow, if they're posting a video on Facebook, they got like a song playing in the background, they get one of those violations from Facebook. They don't understand why that happened.
Yo, let me tell you something. Me as an independent record label, I have a deal through like a two-way deal through Universal Music and a label called SRG for Vivian Green. Not for my other stuff, but for Vivian Green, it's that Universal SRG deal. And it is very frustrating for me to try to promote my own record, a record that I produced, that I wrote, and then I get hit with a copyright infringement thing from Universal, because Universal's so stringent because of the piracy. Like, you know, nobody buys records anymore, and that's a whole nother discussion, because we have actually killed ourselves. You know, the people that supposedly love the music so much chose to not support it anymore. So now we stream and stuff like that. So now labels got the claw out. They're like, yo, anything you do, we got to get a piece of it, because we're not making the money anymore. Nothing is real. Like, you know, people are getting gold and platinum plaques off of streams. That's literally like saying, I'm going to go to the Gucci store every day and look at this coat. And if I look at it 1,000 times, it's like a sale that Gucci got for the coat.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Never mind. If you lose your phone, if you mess up your accounts, if you lose your Spotify, you don't physically have these records. All you do is just play them over and over and over and over again. And now we're giving out gold and platinum plaques, and this one sold this and this one sold that. Y'all ain't do nothing. Nobody does anything. It's all virtual now. It's all.
I think that devalues the actual music too.
It is. It is. It's not. You know, it's not the same. Okay, or even to give a better analogy, I go to the Gucci store. I want to buy my girl a bag. So I take a picture of the bag, and then I bring the picture home, and I let her look at the picture every day for 10,000 times, and now she can say that she owns the bag because she looked at the picture every day. You know what I'm saying?
Those streaming numbers don't add up. And, you know, and I was going to ask you too, because I think we're kind of getting to that point. Like, what's your thought on like 360 deals?
As a record label, that's the only way I can understand them making money. I don't think it's you know, as a label owner, I'm like, how am I supposed to make money? It cost me X amount of dollars to produce this record, to get this record out there. How do I get my money back? Because no one's buying it, right? I got to wait for 1,500 streams just to get a sale of one thing. So nobody's buying the record, but yet you can go on tour and make $1 million for this year off of my investment. I need some. Yo, you're gonna have to break some of that money off.
Not to mention the swag and stuff like that you're selling.
Yeah,
hats, shirts.
You know. This is how different it got, man. It's like it's like I went into Universal Records. They've been doing this for a few years now, but it got so different where one floor of Universal in the Universal building is now dedicated to merchandise. It used to be a record label on that floor.
Wow.
But now it's merchant. So it's like we got to get our money how we want to get it. You know, you know, I'm looking at a comment and somebody said greed. Is it greed or is it a return on your investment? Are you being greedy? If you invested $5 million into somebody and they're allowed to go on the road and make that $5 million, but you don't get your $5 million or your $10 million back, how is that, you know, is that really greed? You know, it's two ways to look at it, because we all look at it from the artist standpoint, because the artist will always cry, oh, the record label's jerking me. You know what I'm saying? But you took that money. You took the loan. Don't take a loan if you're not willing to pay it back.
Not even just that. You took everything that comes with it. They made you this star. To be honest, the money and the footwork that they put out there made you the star that you are. And you get to a certain point, and then you're like, I'm getting jerked.
Nobody's a superstar for free. Nobody. Nobody is a superstar for free. Somebody name me a superstar. I don't want to hear the independent guy who sold the records out of the trunk. He had to buy the car to have a trunk. He had to buy the records to put in the trunk. How about that? Give me the superstar. Give me the person who's performing at the Super Bowl. Give me the person who's performing at the Grammys, and tell me how they did it for free. Nobody. Ain't nothing happening for free. And you know, that's the thing. And you know, to go back is even down to a producer. We are so, you know, first of all, people believe everything that they see and they read, and they don't understand that no business gives up their formula. So we see whatever we see in front of us is the end result. You know, it could be an artist that seems like an artist that came out with out of nowhere, and they seem like, oh, where'd this guy come from? They came out of nowhere. But guess what? How do we not know how many years that artist was trying to get to in front of our face?
Mm-hmm.
You know, artists, it takes forever, man. I've been here. You're talking to me now for the first time. I've been here for 30 years. You know what I'm saying? There could be somebody on your feed that may have never seen me before in their life. You know, and I've been here for 30 years. I'm not complaining. Trust me. You know, so the process is real.
Right.
You know, and you know, the process is, you know, like I'm seeing some of the comments and people are like commenting on what Master P did. We do not know where, we assume, but we don't know where Master P got his investment money from. Someone to say he was a drug dealer. Somebody said his grandfather did this, blah, blah. Whatever it was, he got an investment. Nobody does anything for free. So if we see Little Romeo flourishing, that's based on his father's investment.
Mm-hmm.
Also, No Limit Records was a major label invested in No Limit after a while.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So
they're a priority, right? Yeah.
I believe so. Like, people got to stop with the assumptions. They don't know because they're never going to know. You know, somebody said, how did Chance the Rapper did it? Because somebody invested in that man. Y'all don't know. Don't assume. Just appreciate the output.
Chance the Rapper's father was actually Obama's right-hand man, too. So, you know, and when he was in Chicago. So, I mean, he knows people.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. There was a CNN documentary called, if I'm not mistaken, it was probably called The Chi as well. And they followed around 4 or 5 people, like a reality show in Chicago. And this was like 7, 8 years ago. And one of the people was Chance the Rapper. And I'm watching this documentary like, who the hell is this kid? But they were like, yo, he's going to be the new guy. He's going to be new. And it was just him doing these little house parties, doing these little shows. But I was like, okay, I see what's happening. You're giving, the platform is starting. They never gave a real background. They said that his brother was killed, and that was some of his, or his best friend, I can't remember, either the brother or best friend was killed, and that was part of his motivation to get out of the streets and work. But you don't go from that to throwing full stadium festivals on nothing.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be talent. There's got to be talent. There's got to be records, and there's got to be some sort of backing in this world. So you know, it's like I'm just trying to get people to not fall into propaganda and innuendo. I remember I had a and I'm not never going to put anybody's personal finances out there, but I remember having I had an accountant named Bert Padell, and he was like the industry accountant when I was younger. And I remember seeing Puff had the same account. And I remember physically seeing the investment check into Bad Boy Records. I'm not saying where it came from, but I remember seeing how much exactly was invested. And I'm like, wait, what? He got this for what? But that's what fueled, that's how you got to hear Biggie. That's how you got to hear Craig Mack. It was a huge 7-figure investment. He did not come from nowhere, and it wasn't his pocket money. Understand? So people got to get that, you know, and there's nothing wrong with it. That's how every business starts. Every business in this planet, any capitalist corporation starts that way.
Yep.
You know, and it's life. It's a life lesson. Every child who becomes an adult that goes into the next step of their life has people who invest in them, whether it's emotionally, whether it's spiritually, whether it's financially. There are investments made, and to see that child turn into something bigger than what they are. You know, whether it's the family getting together and sending kids to school, it could be anything. That first $2,000 to get a down payment on a home or a car or whatever. Got to understand that.
That's perfect. You know what? I hope it doesn't cut us off because I think live only lasts for like an hour. I think we're reaching that point. I mean, we can start back if you want to, but yeah, man, that's good stuff.
If people want to pick up, just drop a fire, drop a thumbs up.
Yeah. People want us to pick up. Let us know. I wanted to ask you though, like, you know, because I know you've been creative like the whole time. Like, have you ever been asked to do like any ghostwriting or anything? Like, have you ever done that in your career?
Well, ghostwriting as opposed like not getting credit for it, you mean?
Yeah, like writing for other rappers and didn't get the credit for it.
Oh, well, you know, it was funny, I would always hand like Herbie Lovebug rhymes for Salt and Pepper or rhymes for Kid and Play, and then it'd be like 4 years later I would hear a line on this record and a line on that record. I can't even quote half the records I heard lines from. So I guess here and there, that's somewhat. And then, you know, when I wrote Poison, I wrote Ronnie DeVoe's rhyme and Poison for BBD. I guess that was a ghostwriting thing because it clearly does not say written by Kwame. You know,
and you know what? That's crazy you say that because one of my OGs was telling me you wrote that verse, and I was like, well, how do I ask him if he wrote that verse since, you know, like you said, you know. But yeah, no, dope verse.
They won't, you know, they're not gonna deny it. But what I'm saying is how that happened. Me, Mike Bivens, the rapper Dana Dane, and my boy Dougie, we were all heading to a club in LA. We were all in Mike's car, and he played the demo of Poison, like the raw, uncut demo. And he was like, I'm putting together a group. Me, Ricky, and Ron, we putting together a group, and I couldn't understand it. I'm like, how are y'all breaking up New Edition? Like, what are y'all doing? And he asked me if I wanted to write. He needed rhymes because they're going to be rapping and singing. And I was like, man, by the time we got to the club, I handed him a napkin with the rhyme. And I'm like, you know, do what you got to do. I didn't think it was going to come out. I swear to you, I didn't think it was coming. And then I got a phone call, and then I showed up to the